It's very strange to see your life on video, especially with your parents. I would like to thank the Kinkaid Alumni Board for this award. My former classmates from the class of '99 have really done some amazing things. So I'm very honored and humbled to have been selected. I'd like to acknowledge my wife Molly, who y'all heard a little bit about already, and our two children, Natalie and Eloise, both who aren't here today. I work pretty crazy hours and have missed many events, many birthdays and parent-teacher conferences and sporting events. They take it in stride and don't ever seem to complain. And I'd also like to acknowledge my parents, Dave and Sally, who are also in the audience, who are two of the best people I know and ideal role models. I am somewhat of a late bloomer. I don't remember when the figurative light bulb between my ears finally turned on, but I do know that I did not focus intently and consistently on my studies until my sophomore year of college. I actually repeated fourth grade. My daughter in fourth grade now says I failed fourth grade, which is not true. I repeated it. I don't know how many distinguished young alumni can say that. Although I did better in middle school and high school, I don't recall excelling, and I'm pretty sure I graduated in the bottom half of my class in 1999. But I took advantage of all that Kinkaid had to offer. I played cello in middle school. I stopped playing only because it seemed like I broke the bridge on it at least once a week. I was in a musical my junior year, Oklahoma. I don't remember why I decided to do that in the middle of a lacrosse season. I could sort of sing before puberty, but afterwards, not at all. Mr. Lambert was gracious enough to have me try out in a group so I didn't have to sing alone and embarrass myself. I played football with teammates who loved practicing together and loved playing for each other. As a young lacrosse player, I was able to play with and watch some very talented players and leaders. When I then played as a senior, those lessons were invaluable. And I traveled to China and South Africa during interim term in high school, where I really began to understand how truly fortunate I am. And yes, I learned. But more importantly, I learned how to learn. I learned to take notes in sixth grade from Miss Cooney. I took notes the same way in college and medical school. I learned U.S. and world history. It's amazing how true the old quote is, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. My interest in science really was spurred taking chemistry and physics in high school. I wasn't sure that I'd ever use the calculus I learned in Mr. Vishak's class as a senior, but to my surprise I do in the statistical modeling we use for clinical research. I decided that I was going to be a doctor the summer between my junior and senior year. Using connections from the Kinkaid School, using connections that the Kinkaid School had with the Stalin Foundation for Cancer Research, I, like many students before me, did a summer internship where I performed basic science experiments and was able to shadow a cancer surgeon. The impact that cancer surgeon had on the lives of his patients was remarkable. Like everyone, I wanted my life to have purpose and meaning. I just had no clue what that was going to be. After seeing the impact the cancer surgeon had that summer, I found it. I entered college with a goal, but still unsure how well I was going to do. Freshman year was a struggle. I was adjusting to life away from home, a lack of structure, having to actually feed myself. Although I made A's my freshman year, it was purely on grit and the foundation instilled on me here at Kinkaid. After that year, though, I began to understand that I was capable. My sophomore year, things began to click. All the uncertainty about my previous lack of academic achievements began to fade as I took harder and harder courses. They were just extensions of the last course. And my ability to work harder and longer and with more intensity grew as the difficulty of classes increased. I only earned one B in college. That was my sophomore year, and I was so upset with myself. How things change. And you may not believe me when I say this, but medical school also felt like an extension of college. Now, there was a lot more material, but it was not necessarily more difficult. It just took more time and more effort. Just wanting to be some kind of doctor drove me during the first 2 years of medical school. Once I decided I wanted to be a surgeon, that desire drove me through the next 2 years of medical school, the next 5 years of residency, and the 1 year of fellowship training, to get up at 4 a.m. to round, to work an insane number of nights, to practice suturing on pasta at home when not working, to practice tying knots with my right hand and left hand at home, and to keep learning the entire way. If you find yourself now in the same unfocused situation I was once in while at this school, don't worry. Find your purpose, whatever it is: business, law, advocacy, music, art, fashion, teaching, medicine, technology, athletics. Finding your purpose, your meaning, the thing that drives you will fundamentally change your life. Until then, use your time at this wonderful institution, learning how to learn and broadening your interests. Now I got the best job in the world. I'm a trauma surgeon at UT Health and the Red Duke Trauma Institute at Memorial Hermann. As you heard already, we have the busiest trauma center in the United States, and our outcomes are among the best. I chose trauma surgery as a profession because no operation is the same. Every operation involves a degree of improvisation and creativity. And when I drive into work, I don't always know what operations I'm going to be doing while there or what body cavities I'll be in. I love that about it. My work is rewarding. My colleagues and I all work with purpose. When someone is severely injured and brought to our emergency room, we are alerted prior to their arrival. A huge team of people prepare for this one patient: emergency room physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, radiology technologists, radiologists, medical students, and my team of surgeons. As the patient is moved from the ambulance stretcher to one of our beds, a symphony begins, and I'm the conductor. Everyone in the room has a job and knows the priority of their job. To outsiders, this looks like pure pandemonium. To me, this is organized chaos. My job as the conductor is to make sure that the chaos stays organized and progresses methodically towards resolution. We address immediately life-threatening injuries first, breathing and bleeding. Next, we identify other injuries that could threaten life, such as brain injuries, so that prompt treatment can begin. And lastly, we identify injuries that must be addressed to restore function and get the patient back to their livelihood. Sometimes we have great saves. You can play the video now.
All right, Air 11 live at 6 right now. This is Highway 59 at Greenbrier, the scene of an awful wreck involving a Houston police officer just about 3.5 hours ago. The road just reopened in the last 15 minutes. That 24-year-old HPD officer fighting for his life after being hit during a traffic stop.
Yeah, we just heard from Houston's mayor and police chief asking everybody for their prayers. Again, this happened on Highway 59 in Southwest Houston. Michelle Choi is there for us this morning. Michelle, you've been working to get us updates. What can you tell us?
Yeah, good morning, guys. If you're hearing a lot of cars behind me, that's because HPD actually cleared up the scene moments ago, and the traffic is flowing once again. Now, we've learned that young officer was outside on this highway when he was hit by an SUV being driven by an intoxicated 79-year-old man. Investigators believe he was going about 60 miles an hour when he hit the officer, who was dragged for a few feet. Now, this all happened around 2 this morning. Police say it began when that officer, along with a few others, pulled over a stolen car and jumped out to surround it when he was hit by that drunk driver. As you mentioned, this 24-year-old officer was taken to Memorial Hermann in critical condition.
A traffic stop along the Southwest Freeway overnight turned tragic for 24-year-old officer Nestor Garcia. Police say an SUV traveling up to 60 miles per hour struck him as he stood in the road. At last check, Garcia was out of surgery, stable, but still critical.
When you have so many internal injuries, you got to just see what the next 24, 48, 72 hours will bring.
This animation shows exactly how the crash happened near the Shepherd exit. Officer Garcia was standing between 2 parked cruisers when 79-year-old Robert Zimmerman is accused of plowing right through. He was later charged with intoxication assault of a public servant.
Nestor is a Houston police officer, and I say is intentionally. He arrived in my trauma bay on September 27th, 2017 at 2:32 in the morning. He was severely injured. He had injuries to his brain, spleen, liver, and intestines. He fractured his ribs, spine, and pelvis. He had a collapsed lung. None of these injuries were particularly unique, but Nestor did have one injury that I had never seen nor heard of before. Both of his kidneys had lost blood flow. If we had left them as is, which was an option, he he would be on dialysis for the remainder of his life. Being on dialysis was something that would probably end his career and fundamentally change him. My team and I operated on Nestor for 6 hours and 39 minutes. We stopped the bleeding from his liver. We removed his spleen and a portion of his intestines. We were able to restore blood flow to his right kidney using a bit of creativity and our vascular surgery training. I would like to note that my vascular surgery training was done largely under Dr. Robert Baldwin, Kinkaid class of 1977, and the 1995 Distinguished Young Alumnus. During Nestor's 6 weeks in the hospital, he was cared for by emergency room physicians, anesthesiologists, neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, including my brother Billy, nephrologists, rehabilitation doctors, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, respiratory therapists, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and many, many others, all with the same purpose: save life and restore function. Nestor is an incredible person. On January 24, 2019, he went back to work patrolling the streets of Houston without restrictions. Like I said, I love my job. Though we have great stories like Nestor, I think it would be callous of me not to acknowledge the inherent contradiction that the job I love also involves meeting patients and their families on the worst day of their life. I still struggle with this contradiction, but have come to accept that at present, injury is just a part of life. Until the day that my services are no longer needed, I hope and pray that nobody gets injured. But if you ever do, my team and I will be there in the emergency department waiting on you. That is our purpose. Thank you again to the Kinkaid community and the Kinkaid Alumni Board for this award.